She marched up to my porch like she had a warrant, jabbed a ruler at my gnome statue, and hissed with pure venom in her voice that it was a legal whimsy in this neighborhood. 5 minutes later, she was flat on her back with her wrists zip-tied, trying to claim diplomatic immunity while yelling into my Ring doorbell that she was the HOA. Too bad for her. The homeowner she'd been harassing was an undercover detective with a badge, a body cam, and a very low tolerance for HOA nonsense. Let me tell you how I became Detective Ryan Cole, age 38, an off-duty narcotics cop who just wanted to enjoy his koi pond in peace. After 10 years of busting meth labs, interviewing confidential informants, and doing paperwork under the migraine-inducing glow of fluorescent lights, I was burned out. All I wanted was a quiet life. So I took my savings, cashed in some vacation time, and bought a fixer-upper in Maple Ridge, a tidy tree-lined neighborhood filled with lawn flamingos, cookie-cutter houses, and unfortunately one resident named Brenda Kessler. Maple Ridge looked perfect on the real estate brochure. Streets named after trees, kids riding bikes, dogs behind white picket fences. There was even a little creek that wound behind my property, just right for the koi pond I'd always wanted. The listing mentioned an active HOA, but I figured that meant neighborhood barbecues and maybe a newsletter. I couldn't have been more wrong. Brenda, 54 years old and president of the Maple Ridge HOA, treated bylaws like the 10 Commandments, and believed any lawn ornament was a gateway to urban decay. She referred to herself as a property value preservationist, and drove a golf cart labeled HOA Enforcement Unit with a siren she made herself. She wore mirrored sunglasses and a khaki vest covered in laminated badges she'd printed on her home computer. The first time I saw her cruising past my house at 2 in the morning, clipboard in hand, I knew trouble was brewing. She moved like a mall cop on a power trip, quick little steps, radio crackling even though no one else was listening. Her campaign against me began with petty notes in my mailbox. The first one read that my bird feeder violated Code 4.7, which she called unauthorized avian encouragement. The second informed me that my grass was 1.25 inches over the height limit, and I needed to address it before inspections. The third, and I am not making this up, claimed I had waved to a FedEx driver without proper neighborly clearance. I started finding these notes everywhere, tucked under my windshield wipers, taped to my garage door, and once even slipped through my mail slot at 2 in the morning. My security camera caught her creeping across my lawn in house slippers and a bathrobe like a suburban ghost. Each note became progressively more unhinged. One claimed my doormat was 3 inches too wide and constituted an aggressive welcome. Another stated that the sound of my air conditioner violated the neighborhood's ambient noise standards, which she had apparently made up on the spot. When I didn't respond to these ridiculous notices, because I was off duty and frankly just trying to relax after dealing with actual criminals all week, Brenda escalated her tactics. She parked across from my home nightly, jotting notes in a Lisa Frank notebook labeled surveillance log in glitter pen. She measured the distance between my trash cans with a tape measure, photographed my mailbox from 17 different angles, and even followed my contractor to Home Depot, demanding receipts for what she called potentially non-compliant patio stone. One Saturday, I watched from behind my curtains as she set up an easel at the end of my driveway to give an impromptu lecture on lawn care ethics to a group of bewildered teenagers waiting for the ice cream truck. Her behavior became increasingly bizarre. She started hosting what she called compliance workshops in her driveway, using my house as the example of what not to do. I could hear her from my living room telling a group of confused neighbors that my choice of mulch was an act of suburban terrorism. She created a PowerPoint presentation titled The Decline of Maple Ridge, a case study featuring 37 photos of my property with red circles and arrows pointing out alleged violations. She even distributed handouts, Know the Codes, printed on neon paper with my address at the top like a wanted poster. Then she crossed the line that would ultimately be her downfall. While I was grilling steaks one Saturday afternoon, she entered my backyard without permission, snapping photos of my Zen rock garden with her phone, claiming with a shrill voice that it was a gravel violation that threatened the aesthetic integrity of our community. What Brenda did not know was that I had installed a motion sensor camera network that fed directly into my phone, standard practice for someone in my line of work, and a backyard microphone that caught her muttering under her breath that she bet I was one of those renters who didn't care about property values. I calmly stepped out from behind my grill, still wearing my apron that read "License to Grill," and asked if she would like to explain her trespassing that was being captured on video. Brenda, in peak HOA Karen form, puffed up her chest and demanded to see my identification. She claimed she had eminent domain of aesthetics, not a real thing by the way, and threatened with a voice dripping in entitlement that she would call the real cops if I did not comply with her inspection. I told her with a slight smile that I would be happy to oblige her request. I walked inside, leaving her standing there tapping her foot impatiently, and returned with my wallet. With deliberate slowness, I flipped it open to reveal my badge. "Detective Ryan Cole, County Narcotics Division," I said in my most professional voice.
Brenda blinked several times, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Well," she stammered, "that is certainly interesting, but that does not exempt you from HOA regulations." I informed her in my calm detective voice that not only was she trespassing on private property, but she had been harassing a law enforcement officer for weeks, all captured on video, and that yes, she was now officially under citizen's arrest pending formal charges. The color drained from her face as I explained that entering someone's property without permission, especially while they were home, constituted criminal trespass in our state. When the real police arrived 15 minutes later, Brenda tried playing the misunderstood patriot card, insisting with tears in her eyes that she was just enforcing order and maintaining standards in our community. But when the responding officers saw the footage I had compiled, including her hopping my fence in bright pink Crocs while yelling about unholy lawn vibes and referring to herself as the law of the land, they immediately sided with me. The senior officer, who I recognized from the precinct, reviewed the surveillance footage on my phone with barely concealed amusement. The video showed Brenda not just entering my yard once, but 17 separate occasions over the past month, including one instance at 3 in the morning where she was measuring the height of my garden gnomes with a ruler while wearing pajamas and a headlamp. We watched as she narrated her activities to herself in each video, saying things like, "This will teach him to respect the sanctity of suburban standards, and wait until the board sees this evidence of horticultural rebellion." In one particularly damning clip, she was caught on camera trying to uproot one of my marigolds because she claimed with authority that orange flowers promoted anarchist thinking. The officer had to pause the video because his partner was laughing so hard he could not breathe. She was handcuffed right there in my backyard, her face turning various shades of red as she protested that this was all a misunderstanding. As they placed her in the back of the squad car, she kept insisting that she had HOA authority, waving around a laminated card that said Chief Enforcement Agent that she had clearly made at home. The charges were serious and numerous: criminal trespass, harassment, stalking, and impersonating an official since she had been wearing a fake HOA badge and telling people she had legal enforcement powers. The district attorney, who happened to live 3 streets over and had his own issues with Brenda measuring his hedge height at dawn, was particularly interested in prosecuting the case. The HOA board held an emergency meeting that very evening. They immediately suspended Brenda from her position and released a statement distancing themselves from what they called Ms. Kessler's interpretive enforcement style. Several board members came forward with their own stories of Brenda's overreach, including one who said she had tried to fine him for having the wrong shade of beige on his shutters. I didn't just press criminal charges against Brenda. I filed a civil lawsuit for harassment, emotional distress, and violation of my privacy rights. My attorney, who specialized in HOA disputes, said it was one of the most egregious cases of HOA overreach he had ever seen. The surveillance footage, the paper trail of absurd violations, and the testimony from multiple neighbors created an overwhelming case. The trial was swift and decisive. Brenda's defense that she was protecting property values fell apart when my attorney presented evidence that property values had actually decreased during her tenure as HOA president due to multiple families moving away to escape her tyranny. The judge was particularly unimpressed when Brendan interrupted proceedings 3 times to point out alleged dress code violations in the courtroom. During cross-examination, Brenda made things worse for herself by admitting she had created a secret Facebook group called Maple Ridge Warriors, where she posted photos of violations and encouraged other members to conduct surveillance on non-compliant neighbors. When asked if she understood the concept of privacy, she replied with complete sincerity that privacy was a luxury that homeowners forfeited when they moved into an HOA community. The prosecutor actually had to turn away to hide his smile. Her own attorney looked defeated when she produced a binder she had hidden in her purse, claiming it contained evidence of my crimes against suburban harmony. The judge reluctantly allowed her to present it, only to discover it was filled with photos of my koi pond from various angles, with notes like suspicious fish activity and possible unauthorized aquatic life forms. At one point, she accused me of training my koi to swim in patterns that mocked the HOA bylaws. The court awarded me $80,000 in damages, a comprehensive restraining order that prohibited Brenda from coming within 200 feet of me, my property, or any koi pond in the state of Georgia. The judge also ordered her to complete 100 hours of community service, specifically focused on learning about property rights and lawful authority. The HOA completely dissolved what Brenda had called her enforcement unit and removed her golf cart from service. In a delicious bit of irony, the cart was put up for auction by the HOA to pay for their legal fees. I bought it for $300, repainted it black with silver racing stripes, and now use it to deliver popsicles to local kids during summer block parties. But the criminal case was where Brenda faced her most serious consequences. The judge, after reviewing all the evidence, including her notebook where she had written plans to escalate her harassment until I moved away, found her guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to 6 months in county jail, 3 years of probation, and fined $25,000. When the judge read the verdict, Brenda's jaw dropped so far I thought it might hit the floor, and she let out a wail that echoed through the courtroom before fainting dramatically into her attorney's arms. These days Maple Ridge is quieter. The kids still ride their bikes, the dogs still bark at squirrels, and my koi swim in lazy circles undisturbed. People wave at me when I mow the lawn, and sometimes I even wave back. The HOA still exists, but without Brenda at the helm it's more about potlucks than patrols. Every time I see that black golf cart with silver stripes parked in my garage, I'm reminded how close suburban order came to becoming suburban tyranny, and how one overzealous enforcer turned my quiet life into a case file. But in the end, justice prevailed, the koi kept swimming, and I got my peace back.